Namaskar, I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive session. You are watching us on our eVidya channel number 6 and also on our YouTube channel ncertofficial. This particular session is specially meant for our teachers and for the students of class 6. The subject that we have taken up today is social science, and the topic that we are going to discuss, well, it's not one of the chapters, but we are going to talk about social science textbook for class 6 titled Exploring Society, India and Beyond Part 2. We have already discussed some components of the same in Part 1, and today we will be discussing Part 2 of this particular book. We are having a lot of questions that of course we will be asking from our expert, and he will throw some light on how this particular book has been developed and the reasons and the competencies it offers and whatnot. So if you have any questions regarding the same, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us. You can give us a call, you can write an email to us, or you can connect with us instantly through our YouTube channel ncertofficial. So first of all, take down our phone number, which is 8800440559. In case you want to send us an email with your questions, suggestions and feedback, you can write to us at dth.class6@ciet.nic.in. And I have already mentioned you're watching us live on our YouTube channel ncertofficial. So you can always drop a comment or question on our live chat box, and you can get in touch with us instantly. So this book of social science for class 6, Exploring Society, India and Beyond. To have an insight about it a little more in the second part of this session, we are joined by Professor N.V. Srinivasan. Sir, namaskar and welcome to the session. Sir is Professor of Economics from DESS NCERT New Delhi. And sir, we have already covered some aspects in the first session. So if you can just give us a brief recap of what we learnt about the book and its design curriculum in the first session, that would be great, so that I can go ahead with further questions of this session.
Thank you, Harpreet, and first of all let me thank CIT for giving this opportunity to interact with you viewers, students, parents and teachers. You maybe remember that last time when I introduced this textbook, I was talking about mainly what are the differences, what are the similarities and so on. And today we will discuss more about this textbook, and today we will be specifically discussing about the philosophy based on which this textbook. First of all, you should know how the books, like many of you must have been already using the textbook. Let me show you this book again. So this is the book, and if you look at the cover page, it's called Exploring Society, India and Beyond. So this textbook is developed on the basis of the National Education Policy 2020.
Right.
You know that 4 years before Government of India came out with the education policy, and then this led NCERT to develop a national curriculum framework. The national curriculum framework, look at this, this is the national curriculum framework. This curriculum framework helps us to develop curriculum for the whole country, not only the NCERT, all the SCRTs, all those agencies and publishers of private agencies, they all develop syllabus and textbooks based on the national curriculum framework. So NCERT also has developed this model curriculum, model syllabus and textbooks, and we developed textbooks for 4 classes, and this year we are coming out with this social science textbook. So if you look at this textbook has about, this is called Exploring Society, India and Beyond. You may be wondering why this name is. If you see the content, a lot of content is talking about the society. You see, you are all students, and understanding society is the major purpose of learning social sciences.
Yes.
That is why it is called Society, Exploring Society, India and Beyond.
True.
This means we are also going to learn not only about the our surrounding and the society, and also goes beyond our society, beyond the arena in which we are living. We are also going to see at the national level. That's why it is called India, and the beyond. This means you are also some of things at the global level, and some of things that has happened before we were all like born. That is why it is titled as Exploring Society, India and Beyond. And if you look at the this is a one textbook, as I told you last time, this is the second time NCERT is coming out in recently only one textbook. And this textbook has about 14 chapters. So if you look at the chapters, look at the this introduction page. This has a broad thematic approach. This is based on the thematic approach about which I discussed in the last session. So each theme has about 2 to 3 chapters, and these themes are called India and the world, land and the people, tapestry of the past, our cultural heritage and knowledge system, traditions, governance and democracy, economic life around us. So this is what a brief introduction to this book.
Right. So now that you have reintroduced this book again in this session, I would like to ask you that, since you mentioned national education policy, which means that now we are developing and designing curriculum based on competencies. Yeah. Again, this book, this textbook is based on, some kind of competency. So what exactly do we mean by competency, and why should anybody be concerned about it, whether viewers, students, teachers, why?
Competency is a very, very simple word. You don't have to worry much about it. It's nothing but your learning achievement. It's simply your whatever you learn, which can be assessed, which can be observable, that's called competencies. All the learning achievement that you acquire when you go to school, right, they are all competencies. So as I told you earlier, this National Curriculum Framework for School Education has listed competencies for every stage of schooling. Since you are studying in class 6, and the competencies, curricular goals and educational aims, all these are listed in the National Curriculum Framework. Okay. So what you are expecting that the every competency, let me take example of swimming or another example of driving. Right. So when you want to learn driving, what will you do? You first learn about the signals, all the symbols that are used in the road. Yes. And you also go with a training, you also get trained how to become a driving, and then finally you also go to RTO office, and then you learn, you also pass the test, yeah, and then after that you are also invited after some time, then they will also ask you to show that you learn driving. So after passing their physical test, yes, going with the vehicle and then passing those tests, and then you are awarded a driving license. So and also only after just getting the driving license doesn't mean that you have learned driving. So you practice it regularly, you drive the vehicle. So driving is an example of a competency. Right. Same way when you go to school also, when you are very young, you in the initial classes, when you must be like 3-4 years before, you learn how to read. You also learn to write. Now you may be reading a lot of books, you may be doing a lot of mathematical calculations. So they are all competencies at the lower classes. In the same way, in the higher classes also there are competencies. So these competencies are evolved by the scholars from, they come to NCERT, they discuss for classes 6, 7, 8, what should be the competencies, and also there are many subjects. You have a science, you have a social science, you have a mathematics and so on. So the scholars from different subject areas, they come to NCERT, they come out with the list of competencies. So these competencies are helping to develop this textbook. So the unique, the NCF National Curriculum Framework for School Education 2023 has listed the competencies. These competencies help the textbook writer. If you go to the initial pages of the book, you will see many names of the contributors, reviewers and so on. They are listed. So they come together, they look at the competencies, based on the competencies they develop the content, and then they come out with the textbook chapters. So this is what competency means.
Right. So now that we've learned this definition of competency in detail, I would like to ask you one simple question. Whenever we conduct a session, we always talk about the learning outcomes. These are very important since we have introduced some kind of content in a particular class. So we want to know what exactly students are going to gain from this particular session or the content. Similarly, this textbook is introduced for the students of class 6. How is it giving them an opportunity to, gain different competencies?
That's a very good question. See, viewers, you look at the screen, where I have just listed out some of the competencies and curricular goals. If you look at the screen, you will see the first column, the curricular goals. So for social sciences, when you are coming to class 6, whether you are in class 6 or class 7, class 8, these curricular goals were listed in the National Curriculum Framework. So I am just reading out the one competency, one curricular goal, comprehends and interprets sources related to different aspects of human life and makes meaningful interpretation. So for this curricular goal, what are the competencies listed here? there are two competencies: collect, interpret multiple sources of information, primary and secondary, to understand the historical, cultural, geographical and socio-political aspects of human life. And then competency 2, second competency, represents, analyze data related to various aspects of human life given in the form of text, tables, charts and diagrams and maps. So this is an example of a curricular goal and competency. Let me I'm sure you must be having books with you, and if you are having the book, let me give you an example of how these competencies are integrated in the textbook. So let me go to the competencies, the curricular goal 6. You can look at the screen. This curricular goal is having, it's relatively lengthy, and it is saying the understanding spatial distribution of resources and their conservation. Okay, there are competencies listed here, C 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4. I will give you one example of the one competency, how it is included in the textbook. Let me take C 6.3. Let me show you the book. In the book, if you look at, I am just giving you an illustrative example. If you go to page number 144, look at the book, which if you see the book, in the book you can see a big wide picture. See, this is one of the unique feature you find, that for you all students, you have to cherish the visuals that are available in any textbook, including the social science textbook. So this textbook, this particular page, on page 145, you have something visuals relating to some traditional water conservation technique followed by the Bill community in Madhya Pradesh. It's called Halma tradition. So many years there was a lot of drought and people are not having sufficient drinking water in that area. So people, the Bill community came together and then began a tradition of digging small areas in different parts so that water can be conserved whenever there is a rain actually. So this has led to improvement in the groundwater situation. In fact, it became very popular initiative in the among the community. Even today it is been followed. In 2019, Sri Mahesh Sharma of Shivaganga movement, he was honored with the Padma Shri award for this transformational work actually. So if you look at the competency here, how Indian perspective, how Indians are taking efforts towards conservation and sustainability in society. So the water conservation and sustaining, like improving the rain, like saving the rainwater using the traditional rainwater harvesting techniques. So this is, if we have to know about it, we have to analyze it. So for that purpose, we have integrated we included the example of Halma tradition which is been still followed among the Bill tribal community in Madhya Pradesh. So this is one example of a community, one example of how a competency is integrated in the textbook. Let me give you another example. If you look at the
I mean, this is how topics are integrated with specific competencies.
Yes.
That's what you're showing, right?
There are about 20 competencies in middle stage, and please students, it is not necessary that all the competencies, all curricular goals are integrated in class 6 alone. You are going to study in class 7 also, you are also going to study in class 8 also. So there are some competencies covered this year and some competencies may be covered more than 1 year also. So so at the end of the middle stage, we want to make sure that you develop all these competencies that are listed in the National Curriculum Framework for School Education. I am giving you another example of competency 7.1. So this competency is pertaining to the topic called unity in diversity or many in the one. Our purpose is that you should be able to explain. After studying this chapter, you should be able to explain India's unity in diversity by recognizing the commonalities of rich and diverse cultural elements and languages, art, philosophical ideas, values, clothing, cuisines, traditions, festivals, trade and commerce and health practices including Ayurveda and yoga. So if you look at this chapter of class chapter 8, so the whole chapter is dealing with, for example, the tradition of clothing. And how the saris, we all know that women wear saris, and how the sari, the culture of variety of designs that are made, the sarees of like different kinds, how the saree is used for not only wearing as a clothing element, it is also used for fishing, it is also used for many other purposes actually. So this chapter is providing all the examples of, if you look at, so all the examples of how cloth tradition is used, so that you acquire the particular competency, the competency 7.1. So this is another example. Let me go to the third example. So if you look at the third example, I'll just go to another competency. This competency, the curricular goal is about curricular goal 8, understand and appreciate process of development of the Constitution of India and upholds its importance to promote democratic values. So if you look at the, this is pertaining to the theme on democracy and governance, and it's the third, in fact fourth theme in the textbook. So for that purpose, there are 2 chapters in this book actually. If you look at the book, the chapter is called Grassroots Democracy Part 1, Governance, and in this chapter and also in the second chapter, there are, if you look at the competency, what is the competency says? The competency says that C 8.3 explain the working of the 3 tiers of local self-government and appreciates its significance in upholding democracy at the grassroots level. If this is the competency we are expecting from you after studying these 2 chapters, so what we did was that we developed 2 chapters. One chapter on how the local governance takes place in the rural area, and there is another chapter on the same topic, but it's on the urban area, how the local government performs in the urban area. If you look at the rural area, the chapter number 11 and then the chapter 12. So both these chapters are describing examples of how the local government functions, the local self-government functions in India, and so all these examples are given in the chapter just to achieve this competency. So once you work with your teacher and do all these activities and also answer all the questions that are been given here, and then if you are assessed in any examinations, we wanted to show you that you are attaining this competency of that you are able to explain the functioning of the local self-government. Then let me take you to another competency. If you look at competency 9.1, this is to do with the fourth theme. So fourth theme is to do with the economic life around us. So if you look at the textbook, in the textbook there are 2 chapters. So if you look at the chapter, look at the first, let me read the curricular goal and competency. Curricular goal 9, it states that, look at the screen, understand the process of economic activities in bracket, production and consumption, trade and commerce, bracket close. What is the competency we want you to achieve? You should be able to explain the key elements of trade and commerce, commodity, production, consumption and capital, and its impact on individual life and society. So all this is a big broad area in economics. We cannot cover all those ideas. So we wanted to, when we developed these textbooks, we thought that we will give only production, how goods are produced in the country, how the services are produced in the country, what is meant by economic activity. So if you look at the NCERT social science textbook for class 6 and chapter 13, and there is a chapter on the value of work. So in this chapter we discuss about the economic activities and non-economic activities. So this is one chapter in which we are trying to achieve this competency from you. So when you read, when you work with the teacher with these 2 chapters, the value of work and economic activities, this is the chapter 4, economic activities around us. So when you read and study, understand, discuss, work with these chapters, and finally we think that you will be able to explain what are the key elements of trade and commerce in textbooks.
Right. So, I mean, of course, we can certainly make out that these chapters are designed in a way that you have your target audience in mind, students of a specific age, and accordingly the contents are introduced, and then what competency they are developing. It's not just about cramming the things, but also, you know, to see, you know, what they're gaining from it and what exactly they're imbibing from the chapters. Now, my last question to you is about learning outcomes, you know, because every time we talk about learning outcomes for each of the session, each of the topic, we are really concerned about learning outcomes. So where are they actually available in the textbooks, and why should we all know about them?
See, the learning outcomes are something that's been going on in the last 2 decades, almost 2 decades. That it's also necessary because many times what happen, we all learn many things, but without knowing the purpose for which we are learning.
That's right.
Okay, so it's better that for what is the purpose for which we are learning. For example, when you go to swimming, learn to swimming, you know that you are learning because you want to swim actually.
Yes.
So when you go to a driving school, you have a purpose that I should learn how to drive a vehicle. Okay.
Yes.
Similarly, when you come to school, you also should know what are the outcomes of my learning actually. So the learning outcomes help you to understand what you wanted to learn in specific classes. Okay. So the National Curriculum Framework, I already told you that it is listing out the curricular goals and competencies. Okay, and these competencies are also somewhat, you can say that it's broad learning outcomes. So based on which, but if you look at the present way, what we should know is that every chapter may have many learning outcomes.
Yes.
Okay, so you as a student, you work with your teacher, we are expecting that particularly the teachers should come out with the learning outcomes after reading each chapter. So each chapter will have a specific component, that is why the learning outcomes are small granular milestones of learning. That's what the curricular framework says, that the granular milestone learning. Whatever you are learning, and whatever you are able to, whatever the teacher is able to assess in a particular context. So let me give you example. I already discussed with you about the economics topics, and if you look at the economics topics, fifth theme, there are 2 chapters. The one chapter is on the value of work, and then the second chapter, the 14th chapter is about economic activities around us. So if you look at if these are the 2 chapters, once you study these chapters, and you will be knowing that what are the things that we are expecting from you.
Yes.
Now you look at the slide. Actually, if you look at the slide, and you can see the slide, and I am like there are the suggested learning outcomes. These are not the only learning outcomes. As a teacher, you may be having more than one learning outcome also, and different learning outcomes. We are suggesting you some 3-4 learning outcomes, and the first learning outcome is that you should be able to list different activities. When you are going out, when you are walking from your house to school, you should be able to observe, and you should be able to see what is an economic activity, what is a non-economic activity.
True.
And secondly, you should also be able to list what are the occupations people are doing in your surrounding, in your neighborhood. Okay, and we also want you to distinguish between the economic activity and non-economic activity.
Right.
So like that, like if you, and you also should know that there are many economic activities which are also having importance in our life. Okay, so we should be able to appreciate it. So these learning outcomes you are able to, we are expecting that you should achieve after reading these 2 chapters. So once you use this chapter, the textbook, and understand the curricular goals, competencies and learning outcomes, and then you will be able to appreciate this textbook and the different chapters of the textbook. So my dear students, read the chapters carefully, very thoroughly, and make sure that you are able to achieve, we also hope that you are able to achieve the competencies that are listed, and you are able to achieve the learning outcomes of all the chapters in the book.
I'm sure, because it's not just about learning the content, it's also about why you're learning the same content. So Professor Srinivasan, thank you so much for your contribution to the session. You explained all the things in detail and very nicely. We're really grateful for the same, and I'm sure this is very beneficial information, and it will come handy to all the students and viewers, and of course the teachers. Thank you so much once again. And now it's time for me to wrap up this particular session over here, but in a short while from now, you will watch another live and interactive session that's going to be an online training session for you. So please stay tuned. For the moment, this is me, Harpreet Kaur, taking leave of you. Namaskar.